This video will help you decide whether Farthest Frontier is the right game for you. We'll start with a 60-second, too long didn't read summary of the game, so you can tap out early if it doesn't appeal to you. If you're still intrigued after that, we'll take a detailed look at what you actually do in the game, while also discussing the learning curve, who this game might appeal to, and whether you can pick it up with a nice discount. Basically, I can guarantee that by the end of this video, you'll be able to make an informed decision. Farthest Frontier is a medieval city builder with a particular emphasis on detailed farming and ways for your villagers to die. It's basically a successor to Banished, if you've ever played that game before. As with most city builders, you start with a few workers who build your town centre, then with some worker allocation, they chop trees for wood to construct buildings, and for firewood, they hunt deer, catch fish, and pick berries for food, and before long, you'll be mining resources and manufacturing goods to sell for a profit. If you meet your villagers' needs, then more villagers will come. But you must have enough food and firewood stocked for winter. Wells must be positioned efficiently. Soap must be available to avoid diseases. Fences erected around your crops to prevent wildlife stealing your food. And to top it all off, you must fend off increasingly difficult bandit raids with an RTS-style army. So if you like the sound of the most detailed farming simulation you've ever seen, producing goods to trade for other essential items, adapting to the changing seasons, and building an impressive medieval town, Farthest Frontier might be your cup of tea. If that hasn't put you off, then grab a drink and get comfortable as we look through the detail of what you actually do in and what it's like to play Farthest Frontier. Although there is much flexibility in the game's setup options, you are pretty much doing the same thing each time you play Farthest Frontier. You build and grow your settlement, and for many, that's enough, especially once you begin to construct impressive stone walls. Then the end of the game involves constructing one of 3 monuments, which requires you to focus on a particular area of the vast tech tree. More on that later. If you want a creative mode, where you build a pretty medieval town, you can absolutely do that. If you want the economic challenges without the fighting, there's a pacifist mode. But if you want a brutal game with scarce resources, rampant diseases, and even more rampant raiders, Farthest Frontier can serve that up too. Although the game offers a variety of experiences, it's the same game, with certain elements turned on or off, and there is no real story. The main goal is survival and growth. Let's face it, city builders can all be a bit samey. So before we get into what it's actually like to play this game from the beginning, let me take you through the details of farming, which I think will demonstrate to you an aspect that differentiates this game from other similar city builders. First, you will need to find a suitable area in terms of fertility and soil composition for the crops you intend to grow. Once a suitable location is located, the field size is flexible from a minimum of 5x5 squares up to 12x12. Once constructed, you can set your 3-year crop rotation. Fast-growing crops could be planted twice in 1 year, but longer-to-grow crops take up a full year, for example. You can constantly tweak the 3-year rotation or just leave it to follow your orders, but you want it to be set such that all of your fields combined provide a steady enough flow of different crops without putting too much strain on the availability of your farmers, as they can only be in one field at a time. Your field will have a level of fertility, which degrades over time, as well as a level of weeds, which gets worse over time, and also a level of rocks, both of which reduce future yields. To combat this, you need to first allocate time in your crop rotation for the fields to be maintained. You won't get any crops from this, but weeds and rocks will be reduced. You also need to fit in the growing of clover. Again, there is no yield of crops, but it's low maintenance and improves the fertility of the soil. All in all, getting your 3-year crop rotation for each field right is a mini-game unto its own, one you will constantly tweak to ensure efficiency as well as availability of the right crops at the right time. But there's more. Some plants prefer warmer weather, others colder weather. Others might catch a disease, be more tolerant to drought, rocks, and weeds. Some prefer more clay in the soil, while others prefer sand. And you can change that mix to better suit the crops on your rotation, so it makes sense to group crops that enjoy a similar mix into the same fields. Once harvested, some crops have a longer shelf life than others, because food spoilage and storage is very much a thing in this game. And you can always have someone collect the waste of your villagers and animals to be spread on the fields to improve fertility. Once you throw all of this together, farming is bloody complicated at first, but you'll soon realize that although obtaining absolute efficiency feels nigh on impossible, it's actually quite easy to just get by and harvest enough crops to survive, even if you aren't being as efficient with all of these variables as you would like. And that is a running theme throughout the entirety of Farthest Frontier's systems. There are two ways to gain new villagers, through immigration and through your current villagers making babies. The key to all of this is happiness, and the key to happiness is meeting your villagers' needs, which can be broken down into the following categories: food, health, shelter, desirability, having shoes, having clothes, family, cleanliness, beer, entertainment, luxuries, and spirituality. Get these right, and have spare housing, and the immigrants will come to boost your available workforce. As this is a frontier, health is particularly important, and this game provides many ways for your villagers to get sick or die, whether it's getting attacked by a bear, a bout of severe weather, or a horrible disease, drinking the wrong water, a lack of vitamin C, an accident at work, and of course, combat are all ways for your villagers to be struck down. Sometimes there's nothing you can do, and the villager may well just recover given some time, but there are many things you can do to help prevent diseases and keep your villagers safe, usually by providing them with goods such as warm clothing, some soap, and of course clean water and firewood for winter. When someone does get sick or hurt, you can build a healer's house, which will help, especially if certain medicines are available to aid their recovery. Basically, when they say Farthest Frontier, they really mean it. Your villagers need houses to live in, which are basic shelters to start with, but if you can increase the desirability of a shelter's location, as well as satisfying some other basics, the shelter may be upgraded, which basically means an increased tax take, and that house can now house more villagers. To make a location more desirable, you generally need to do two things: pay gold to place pretty things near that location, and don't build unwanted buildings there, such as industrial buildings. You need to keep those in a separate location. As well as upgrading your houses, which is vitally important, you can upgrade pretty much every building in the game, provided you have the research and the materials in place. In fact, if you like a game with plenty of upgrades that incrementally improve that building's performance and your settlement overall, then Farthest Frontier has a lot to offer you. As mentioned previously, this is a worker allocation game, so you will be turning buildings on and off as required and allocating more or less workers in an attempt to optimize your worker input and resource output. So if you like to optimize throughput, this game has plenty to offer you. Once resources are extracted and goods are produced, they need to be physically transported to where they are needed. So building placement and keeping an eye on how much time your workers are spending on transporting is essential. There are generic storage buildings where you can decide precisely which items are or are not stored there, and there are specific storage solutions, such as a granary for grain or a root cellar for food, which not only stores food but prolongs its freshness. The game does have a specific building that produces wagons, but generally speaking, all villagers help with logistics, and I feel the game could do with a more dedicated worker role for logistics, as the wagon guys often don't achieve all that much. Manufacturing is a big deal in this game. You must meet your people's needs to avoid a death spiral, but also trading goods is absolutely essential. There are an absolute ton of raw ingredients and items to be produced, which is intimidating at first, but the production chains themselves are relatively compact. Wheat becomes flour, becomes bread, ore becomes ingots, becomes swords, that sort of thing. It's a big part of the game, and there are many different things to produce based on what's near your settlement, but the process is relatively straightforward. Making money in this game is essential because before long you'll find that in order to progress, you need rather a lot of gold, like a lot of gold. But then you realize you can sell 40 pairs of shoes to the passing merchant for hundreds of gold, so production and trading is a core part of this game. Merchants turn up when they fancy and will only have a certain amount of goods to trade, and that they are willing to buy. You can't guarantee they'll want what you have, or they'll have what you want. Though it is possible to request a specific item, you'll then be charged sky-high prices. If you get lucky, and they want what you have in stock, then you can also check whether they are offering a particularly good or bad price too. Once you've decided, you need to request those goods or gold are actually shifted to your trading post before you can lock in the trade. It's a nifty little system that makes each trader's visit a little bit exciting, and the fact that you have to physically shift the gold to and from your trading post is a nice touch of reality too. The changing of the seasons have a real impact on your game. At the very least, you need to have enough stores of food and firewood for winter, and bear in mind each house needs to be adequately stocked, and your villagers will stop work and seek shelter during particularly bad weather. During the warmer months, it's relatively easy to fish, hunt, and pick food from surrounding bushes, but whether plentiful birds' eggs or hazelnuts are available to be plucked depends very much on the season. Not just summer and winter, but as the summer progresses, some food will become available, while others less available. Then there's basically nothing in winter. Variety is important too. Although you might have 12 months of smoked meat in stock, your villagers will be unhappy until they have some fruit from your apple trees, fish from the local pond, berries from a bush, eggs from a bird's nest, and so on. So collecting food is so much more than allocating 5 villagers to gather from a bush until it's exhausted. You have to adapt as the seasons change and have a wide variety of food available to your villagers throughout the year. There aren't many stages of advancement in this game, but to actually get there can feel quite brutal at first. Upgrading your town centre will unlock a whole host of new buildings, but in order to upgrade, you need to increase your population, erect certain buildings, which is often a challenge in itself, and you'll need a certain number of upgraded homes, which means ensuring their desirability is high, which costs a fair amount of gold to achieve. And then we have the tech tree. It's bloody massive. I'll confess, I do like a game that offers some unlockable research that increases the rate of unlockable research by 2%. Here's looking at you, Stellaris. But honestly, there is so much to unlock in this game, and most of them you genuinely want, as there are very few throwaway unlockable items that feel pointless, all of which makes earning knowledge so you can unlock research items an important factor throughout the game. Just be sure to feed your scholars with enough paper to keep them quills scratching. Unless you play on pacifist mode, you will soon need to defend yourself from raiders. Building a couple of towers and assigning a couple of villagers with weapons to them should be enough to get you through the early game, but before long, you'll need to recruit more villagers to take up arms. You'll need to provide them with weapons and armour, either by purchasing them or preferably creating them yourself, and you'll need to train them up. The end result is a reasonable-sized army with bows and swords that you can control like an RTS game, drag highlighting and right-clicking them to attack the bastards invading your village, trying to steal your gold. The game looks pretty. You can't fully control the camera as much as I would like, and you can't walk around like you can in Manor Lords, but the smoke coming out of the chimneys in the middle of the otherwise untamed wilderness has a certain charm. Over time, you can construct an attractive palisade wall and eventually solid stone defences that are not only practical for defence, but also make your village look and feel like a proper medieval town. The creative mode has a lot to offer those who like to construct without worries, but I can't get away from the fact that this game doesn't have that special something in the visuals that Manor Lords has. But even so, it is genuinely pretty, as you can see for yourself. Hopefully by now you have an idea of what it's like to actually play Farthest Frontier, so let's address some other more practical considerations that might affect your purchasing decision. The tutorial in this game is only just about present. You do have quite a lot to learn, and there is very little hand-holding. If you don't mind reading, there is a comprehensive official online guide, but ultimately this game has a fairly chunky learning curve, so watch out for that. As with most city builders, you will need to set aside a good 2 to 3 hours per session to get the most out of the game. Although theoretically you can play in short stints, Farthest Frontier was designed to be an absorbing experience where hours seem like minutes. There is no multiplayer in this game whatsoever. This game is for loners, like me. Farthest Frontier is a relatively new game, so don't expect a dirt cheap price. However, the most recent sale has seen a 30% discount, and they tend to come around every month or so. Basically, you shouldn't have to wait long for at least a 30% discount, so don't be a fool, wishlist, and be patient. So with all that said, is Farthest Frontier right for you today? As always, it depends who you are. So, the elephant in the room, is Farthest Frontier better than Manor Lords? In almost every conceivable way, yes, it's better than Manor Lords. It feels more polished, the updates more frequent, there's more content. But Manor Lords has a certain magic about it that's hard to explain, and is also missing from Farthest Frontier. On paper, it shouldn't be a contest, But if you want a seriously immersive game at the expense of all else, I'd go for Manor Lords, but everyone else would likely prefer Farthest Frontier. If constructing production chains is your thing, then Farthest Frontier has a lot to offer you. If, for example, you enjoy Anno 1800 for its commerce and you're looking for your next game, Farthest Frontier is a solid choice. If you enjoy creating a pretty village or medieval town, then look no further. Farthest Frontier has you covered. If you want a game to hold you by the hand and present clear objectives, you'll find Farthest Frontier frustrating. The joy is in the journey, rather than in the end goal. There are end goals at least, but they're just not very good in this game. But the journey is genuinely fun. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoy city builders, grand strategy, RTS, or just this style of review, consider subscribing for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.